Witamy widzów kanału Spożywcza TV, portalu hurtdetal.pl i agronomist.pl i zapraszamy na program Gabinet Spożywczy, którego gościem jest pani Wiktoria Abramowa, prezes zarządu Mars Polska, odpowiedzialna za segment Mars Wrigley. Good morning, thank you for your time, thank you for joining the program. Rozmowę program poprowadzą Michał Siwek,
Dzień dobry Państwu.
dyrektor Departamentu International Food and Agri-Hub BNP Paribas i Wojciech Szeląg, kłaniam się nisko. Michale.
Let's start from your 2 years experience in Poland. When you took this position in 2021, position as a president of the management board in Mars Polska, you said in one of the interviews, I look at the Polish market as a place where chocolates, bars, ice cream, gums and mints, in other words, everything Mars Wrigley offers, have the fantastic growth prospects. And it seems that those words have already started to come true, and let's have a couple of statistics, couple of figures. Last year, statistical poll ate between 5.5 till 6 kilograms of chocolate sweets, according to Dun and Bradstreet. And meanwhile, the value of the confectionery market in Poland is already estimated around 8.5 billion Polish zloty, and it's 10% more in 2021. What do you think is behind this growth, and which chocolate confectionery are have performed better or worse?
The confectionery category is really loved by Polish people, so which pleased me very much because I also love this category. Indeed, there was phenomenal growth in the past year, so I think nowadays we can say that it has crossed the mark of 9 billion as a category with double-digit growth 2 consecutive years. Of course, one part of this growth is driven by the rebound post-COVID. So you ask what are the categories that have performed better. I know and what we see is that the impulsive part of confectionery and chocolate specifically has demonstrated the biggest growth in the past year, which is bars, gum, count lines, whether previously tablets and pralines, those that are more in-home consumption, were number one. Now they were outperformed by bars and count lines category, which were also the biggest contributors for growth in the past years, including gum and mints, so which position us and our brands, Mars brands, pretty well versus the expectations of the consumers that love to have a sweet moment on the go, so as it is an impulsive category.
But it's quite impressive growth, as you said, double digit, no matter it's 10 or even more. So do you have some research, your internal research, how it is driven?
Partially it's driven now by the mobility increase, so more people going out, so comparing to the COVID period of time. It's also driven by the desire of the shopper to have a moment of treat, or a moment of pleasure. I think it's also driven by the manufacturers supporting advertisements, bringing innovations that Polish people really love to try and test. Great visibility in retail and the support of our retail partners. But first of all, the consumers and the shoppers, as you said, they consume, they love the category. So it's a resilient category during any economical crisis because it creates some moments of happiness, just to have a chocolate bar or a chewing gum.
I know it from my experience.
Exactly.
Me too.
So yeah, the history of the category demonstrated that it will stay loved by consumers. So I think the primary reason, it's the comparison, but also the speed of innovations and the shopper habits.
Let's talk about the brands. Your brand is known worldwide, but there are also private labels on Polish market, around 20%. And according to polls, 25% of Polish consumers don't distinguish private label from a branded product. Is it a threat for you? Brand is a value, but for many consumers, well, they don't care. They just look at price. So, is it a threat?
When you say 20%, that's true for the whole FMCG. In confectionery, it's a little bit different. Private labels account for around 11%, so half of what FMCG is. And in bars category, it's even lower. It's less than 6% in Poland. From our research, and when we talk to the shoppers, the primary reason why they choose chocolate is, of course, the taste, but the second is the brand. So a well-known brand, well-established, unique brands of great quality of product is something that still consumer choose in confectionery and in bars category, for example, and in chewing gums the same. Is it a threat? No, I think it's something that we need to closely monitor, as we do, and monitor the shopper behaviors and the consumer preferences.
But it's still far from threat.
It's still far, yes. 6% is sizable. The company started 100 years ago. And it started in a kitchen, doing Frank Mars with his wife did the first chocolate bar. M&M celebrated 80 years recently. Snickers this year is celebrating 30 years in Poland. So there's such a history of love of the consumers to the brand. So it's hard to compete. Plus, we innovate, we advertise, we support our brands, we make them interesting for consumers.
But we will come back to this topic soon.
Yes. Now a little bit different topic. Labels have become an important source of information for consumers whose interest in the health and nutritional value of products is growing. And according to the SW research, almost 65% of respondents try to buy only products that don't contain artificial ingredients, and 75% find a short ingredient list crucial. How does Mars approach those type of challenges posed by the modern consumer?
I'll start with probably answering a little bit broader. What's our general approach? The vision of Mars is to create a world where everyone can thrive. So, and we look in three directions, the physical, the emotional, and the mental health of our society. So when it comes to the physical, and this is closer to the question that you ask, what we do is, of course, all our ingredients are of the best quality possible. So we have implemented 100% sustainable cocoa sourced for all the European production of our brands. So we also help to support not only by the ingredients, but also the portion size control, support physical health and education. So I think 100% of our single serve are below 250 calories. So we aim to make at least 50% of our portfolio below 200, and all the new innovations with less sugar, so less than 25 grams per portion. So that's from the physical standpoint. From the mental standpoint as well, health is important. So our brands like Maltesers and M&M's, they support inclusivity, they support mental health. And when we talk about societal health, we also try to support our consumers. So we don't advertise, and we have never advertised to kids below 13 years old. So we say that it should be, our products should be chosen by a parent, a gatekeeper. So that's why no communication directed to kids. And also we try to support the health of the society, for example, in Poland with our program Share a Smile from the Orbit brand. So, and if we have time, I can talk about it a little bit more. So it's a holistic approach, ingredients, packaging, portion sizes, but also mental health and societal impact we have.
So let's come back to consumers, this time young consumers. They expect not only quality and price, they expect also your involvement in all these things concerning environment and society. Soon, in 10 or 20 years, but it means soon, they will be the main group of consumers. How do you want to face their different needs, their different expectations? These are not the same consumers as previous generations. So how do you want to do it?
And not only consumers, but our associates as well, right? The people that work for us. So both are extremely important. And I'm personally quite proud of not only the commitment, but the progress and the intentionality that Mars is having behind the sustainability agenda. So Mars has already invested, I think, 1.1 billion, and we have recently announced dollars that we will invest 2.7 additional billion into our sustainability agenda. So we have announced in 2017 our Sustainable in Generation plan, which consists of 3 parts. The first is greenhouse gas emission cut. So when we progressed versus what we planned. So versus 2015, we managed to cut the greenhouse gas emission by 6.1%. So on track towards our commitment. The second part of our Sustainable in Generation plan is the supply chain, the cocoa farmers that support our business on their end. The education programs, the women in cocoa that we support, the fight against child labor, and more sustainable practices of growing cocoa, but also mint and also palm oil. So all that is part of this agenda. And the third, of course, we always talk about packaging, right? So, and how to make better and recyclable packaging. That's also where all the investments are going. We have done quite some test and learns and implemented changes in packaging in different markets. In Germany, a more sustainable plastic package for gum. In Australia, recently, you may have heard paper packaging for bars. And overall, we want to change 12,000 types of packaging in the business in the coming years. So this is where we are going and the 3 focus areas of the business that we have. There's also sustainable energy, and yeah, if we have time, we can cover it as well. How are we progressing with that? So we have something to say. We also have a lot to do all together, right? As a business, but also with our partners, with our suppliers, through our supply chain, and so it's just the beginning. And as one of the leaders of Mars recently said, we are probably the first generation that cannot say we didn't know that, right? So, and the impact that we as a business have on our planet.
But I want to ask you also about some products themselves. That will be big, quite new group of consumers. You mentioned a long tradition of products in your company. This is asset, but for young generations, some of them can be too old, with too big tradition. Do you think that the way to deal with that is to create something completely new for new generation, or to base on tradition with some changes?
It's a great question. I personally think it's both. The biggest challenge for any company in the world is to be not relevant to their consumers, or to stop being relevant. So, and for that, yeah, you constantly need to innovate, reformulate, bring new brands, bring new communication, new aspects of communication to your brand. So I think it's both. There are core brands, very well known, but they evolve as well, right? So there are flavors coming. For sneakers, we will soon introduce protein sneakers, which also address different needs or expectations of consumers. M&M's, many flavors, many ways of communicating the purpose of the brand, because, yeah, as we discussed, there is much more than brands and expectations of consumers right now. But yeah, there's also new brands joining the portfolio. We are expanding ice cream right now as a category as well. So I think big brands and with strong legacy will remain. They may evolve, but new will come. But that's the beauty of the category as well, right? Never being bored, and the beauty of the consumer.